Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Flower Adornment Sutra, the 10 Grounds, Chapter 26, Part 1. At that time, the world donor one was in the royal palace in the heaven of the comfort from others' transformations, in the hall of treasuries of money jewels, together with the gathering of great bodhisattvas. All these bodhisattvas who were irreversible from Anantara Samyak Sambodhi has assembled from the worlds of the other directions. They dwelt in the states of wisdom in which all bodhisattvas dwell, had entered the place of wisdom which all Daskamans enter, and diligently practiced without rest. They were well able to manifest all kinds of spiritual penetrations, and all that they did to teach, transform, tame, and subdue living beings was done at the right time, in order to accomplish all bodhisattvas' great vows. In all worlds, in all kalpas, in all lands, they diligently cultivated all practices without slacking even momentarily. They were replete with the bodhisattva's blessings and wisdom, the aids to the way by which they universally benefited living beings without shirking. They had arrived at the ultimate shore of a bodhisattva's wisdom and experience. They manifested entry into birth and death as identical with nirvana, yet they did not renounce the cultivation of bodhisattva practices. They were skilled at entering all bodhisattvas, dhyanas, liberations, samadhis, samapattis, spiritual penetrations, and clear knowledges. In all they did, they obtained comfort. They acquired all bodhisattvas' comfortable spiritual powers, and in all instant, without movement or exertion, they could go to the assemblies of all Daskamans, Bodhimantas, act as leaders of the assembly, and request the Buddha to speak Dharma. They protected and upheld the Buddha's proper Dharma wheel. They used a vast great mind to make offerings to and serve all Buddhas. They always diligently practiced the deeds which all bodhisattvas practice. Their bodies universally appeared in all worlds. Their voices reached throughout the Dharma realms of the 10 directions. Their mind's wisdom was unobstructed. They universally saw the merit and virtue of all bodhisattvas of the 3 periods of time. They had already cultivated and obtained perfection. In ineffably many kalpas, they could not completely be described.
Their names were Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, Jewel Treasury Bodhisattva, Lotus Treasury Bodhisattva, Virtue Treasury Bodhisattva, Treasury of Lotus Virtues Bodhisattva, Sun Treasury Bodhisattva, Treasury of Surya Bodhisattva, Treasury of Undefiled Moons Bodhisattva, Treasury of Adornment Universally Manifesting in All Countries Bodhisattva, Treasury of Vairocana Wisdom Bodhisattva, Treasury of Wonderful Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Chandana Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Flower Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Kusuma Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Upala Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Heavenly Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Blessing and Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Unobstructed Pure Wisdom Virtue Bodhisattva, Treasury of Merit and Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Narayana Virtues Bodhisattva, Treasury of Non-Defilement Bodhisattva, Treasury of Freedom from Filth Bodhisattva, Treasury of Versatile Eloquence Adornments Bodhisattva, Treasury of Great Bright Light Nets Bodhisattva, Treasury of Pure Awesome Virtues Light King Bodhisattva, Treasury of Gold Adornments and the Light of Great Merit and Virtues King Bodhisattva, treasury of adornments of all marks, pure virtues, Bodhisattva, treasury of Vajra, blazing virtues and adornment marks, Bodhisattva, treasury of blazing light, Bodhisattva, treasury of light illumination, constellation king, Bodhisattva, treasury of empty space and unobstructed wisdom, Bodhisattva, treasury of unobstructed wondrous sounds, Bodhisattva, treasury of Dharani, merit and virtues to maintain the vows of living beings, Bodhisattva, treasury of sea adornments, Bodhisattva, treasury of summary virtues, Bodhisattva, treasury of purity of merit and virtues, Bodhisattva, the thus come once treasury, Bodhisattva, moon of liberation, Bodhisattva, and all other numberless, limitless, boundless, incomparable, uncountable, indescribable, inconceivable, illimitable, and ineffable multitudes from bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, with Vajra treasury Bodhisattva as their leader. At that time, Vajra treasury Bodhisattva received the Buddha's spiritual power and entered the Bodhisattva's great wisdom light samadhi. After he entered the samadhi, in each of the 10 directions were worlds beyond the number of fine motes of dust in 10 million Buddha lands, each of which contained Buddhas to the number of fine motes of dust in 10 million Buddha lands, all bearing the same name, Vajra treasury. All those Buddhas appeared before him and said, good indeed, Vajra treasury, that you are able to enter this Bodhisattva's great wisdom light samadhi. Good men, this is due to the combined aid of Buddhas throughout the 10 directions, to the number of fine motes of dust in 10 million Buddha lands. It is also due to the power of the basic vows and the awesome spiritual might of Vairocana, thus come one, Arahat, of right and equal enlightenment. And it is due to the power of your supreme wisdom. They wish to cause you to have the light to speak all inconceivable Buddha Dhammas for all Bodhisattvas, that is, to bring about entry into the ground of wisdom, the gathering in of good roots, the skillful selection of Buddha Dhammas.
Vast knowledge of all Dhammas, skillful ability to speak Dhamma, purification of undiscriminating wisdom, non-defilement of all worldly Dhammas, purification of world-transcending good roots, obtaining inconceivable stores of wisdom, obtaining all wisdom and entry to states of wisdom. They also wish to bring about obtaining of Bodhisattva's 10 grounds from beginning to end, and accurate speaking of the distinctive characteristics of the Bodhisattva's 10 grounds, following and being mindful of all Buddha's Dhammas, cultivating, studying, and discriminating non-outflowing Dhammas, cleverly adorning through the light of great wisdom of skillful selection and contemplation, skillfully entering the door of decisive wisdom, according to dwelling places manifesting in a sequence and speaking without fear, obtaining the light of unobstructed eloquence, dwelling on the ground of great eloquence, and having skillful decisiveness, being so mindful of the Bodhisattvas that one never forgets them, maturing all the realms of living beings, being able pervasively to go to all places and be sure to be enlightened. Good men, you should eloquently discuss these distinctions of Dhammados and good and clever methods, which is to say, receiving the Buddha's spiritual power, to be aided by the thus come one's light of wisdom, to purify one's own good roots, to universally purify the Dhamma realms, to completely gather in living beings, to deeply enter the Dhamma body and the wisdom body, to receive all Buddha's anointment of one's crown, to obtain the tallest, largest body in all worlds, to transcend all worldly ways, to purify world-transcending good roots, to perfect the wisdom of all wisdom. At that time, the Buddhas of the 10 directions bestow upon Vajra treasury Bodhisattva a peerless body, bestow unobstructed eloquence of delight in speech, bestow skillfully discriminating pure wisdom, bestow the power of good memory and non-forgetfulness, bestow skillfully decisive wisdom of understanding. Bestow the wisdom to reach all places and become enlightened. Bestow the power of ease in accomplishing the way. Bestow the thus come one's fearlessnesses. Bestow those of all wisdoms, wisdom of eloquence, to contemplate and discriminate all Dharma doors. Bestow all thus come one's perfected, superior, wonderful adornments of body, speech, and mind. And why? Because upon obtaining this samadhi, the Dharma is that way. Because of the arisal from past vows, because of profound thought being well purified, because of the wheel of wisdom being well purified, because of aids to the way being well accumulated, because of what one does being well cultivated, because of mindfulness of one as a limitless Dharma vessel, because of knowledge that one has pure faith and understanding, because of flawless maintaining and upholding being obtained, because of skillful application of the seal of wisdom of the Dharma realm.
At that time, all the Buddhas of the 10 directions extended their right hands and rubbed Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva on the crown. After they had rubbed his crown, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva arose from Samadhi and told the assembly of Bodhisattvas, disciples of the Buddha, all Bodhisattvas' vows are well decided. They are unadulterated, imperceptible, vast and great like the Dharma realm, ultimately like empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future. These Bodhisattvas pervade all Buddha lands and rescue and protect all living beings. They are protected by all Buddhas. They enter the grounds of wisdom of all Buddhas of the past, the future, and the present. Disciples of the Buddha, what are the grounds of wisdom of Bodhisattvas Mahasattva's? Disciples of the Buddha, the grounds of wisdom of the Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas are of 10 kinds, which all Buddhas of the past, the future, and the present have spoken, will speak, and are speaking. I also speak them thus. What are the 10? 1. The ground of happiness. 2. The ground of living filth. 3. The ground of emitting light. 4. The ground of blazing wisdom. 5. The ground of invincibility. 6. The ground of manifestation. 7. The ground of traveling far. 8. The ground of not moving. 9. The ground of good wisdom. 10. The ground of the Dharma cloud. Disciples of the Buddha, these 10 grounds have been explained, will be explained, and are being explained by all Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. Disciples of the Buddha, I have not seen any thus come ones in any Buddha lands who do not speak these 10 grounds. And why? They are the Bodhisattvas Mahasattvas' most superior path to Bodhi. They are also doors of pure Dharma light, namely, the detailed explanation of all Bodhisattvas' grounds. Disciples of the Buddha, this place is inconceivable, namely the wisdom accordingly certified to by Bodhisattvas. At that time, after Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva had finished speaking the names of the 10 grounds, he remained silent and did not further distinguish them. Thereupon, all this assembly of Bodhisattvas, upon hearing the names of the Bodhisattvas' 10 grounds, but not hearing the explanation, all looked up in thirst and had this thought: what is the cause and what is the reason that Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva only speaks the names of the Bodhisattvas' 10 grounds, yet does not explain them? Moon of Liberation Bodhisattvas, knowing what was being thought by all those in the great assembly, used verses to question Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, saying, why is it that the pure enlightened one, replete with mindfulness, wisdom, and virtue, speaks of the superior wondrous grounds, yet with power to do so, still does not explain them? You have decisiveness and judgment, are courageous, and are not weak-willed. Why do you only name the grounds without going on then to discuss them? the wonderful doctrines of the grounds. All those assembled wish to hear. Their minds show no trace of cowardice. They wish you to speak them in detail. The multitudes assembled are all pure, devoid of laxness, stern and clear, able to be solid and unmoving, with merit, virtue, wisdom all endowed. Mutually they look to you in reverence, all of them intent with upward gaze, like bees that are mindful of their honey, like thirsty people thinking of sweet dew.
At that time, the greatly wise and fearless Bodhisattva, Vajra Treasury, having heard what was said, and wishing to make the assembled multitudes happy, for all disciples of the Buddha, used verses and said, the deeds of Bodhisattvas, grounds of practice, are sources most supreme of Buddhas all. Clear discussion of them in detail is forever rare and hard to come upon. Their subtleties are difficult to see. Apart from thought, they go beyond the mind. The states and realms of Buddhas that appear cause those who hear to be confused and doubt. If one holds the mind like Vajra, with deep faith in the Buddha's foremost wisdom, knowing that the mind ground lacks a self, one can hear these dharmas most supreme, like pictures that are painted in the air, like traces of the wind in empty space. The wisdom of the Muni is that way, its distinctions very hard for one to see. I am mindful that the wisdom of the Buddhas is superior beyond conception. There is no one in the world who can receive it. Silent then am I and do not speak. At that time when Moon of Liberation Bodhisattva heard this said, he addressed Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, saying, disciples of the Buddha, the multitudes are already gathered here. They all have well purified the depths of their minds and have well cleansed their thoughts. They have well cultivated many practices. They have well accumulated the aids to the path. They have been well able to draw near hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas. They have accomplished limitless good roots of merit and virtue. They have cast off all stupidity and doubt. They have known defilements. They have deep faith and understanding. Within the Buddha Dharmas, they do not follow other teachings. All is well, disciple of the Buddha. You should receive the Buddha's spiritual power and speak. All these bodhisattvas will be able to be certified as knowing all these profound places. At that time, Moon of Liberation Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke verses saying, we wish you to speak of the most tranquil Bodhisattva's practices unsurpassed, discriminating each and every ground, wisdom pure and accomplishment of proper enlightenment. This assembly is free from all defilements. Their determination and understanding are bright and pure. They have served limitless Buddhas. They can know the meaning of these grounds. At that time, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva said, disciples of the Buddha, although the assembly gathered here all have well purified their thoughts, have cast off stupidity and doubt, and in the deeply profound Dharma they do not follow other teachings, there are still other living beings with deficient wisdom, who upon hearing these profound and difficult to conceive of matters would give rise to more doubts, and in the long night they would suffer much distress. I take pity upon them and therefore remain silent. At that time, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke verses saying, although these multitudes have pure, vast wisdom, and their profound and sharp understanding can make decisive choices, their minds are moving like the king of mountains, and cannot be overturned like the great sea. There are those who have not practiced long nor yet understood. They practice with consciousness, not with wisdom. Hearing this, they will doubt and fall into bad paths. I take pity on them and therefore do not speak.
At that time, Moon of Liberation Bodhisattva again addressed Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, saying, disciple of the Buddha, I hope you will receive the Buddha's spiritual power and explain in detail these inconceivable dhammas. These people should obtain the thus come one's protection and mindfulness and give rise to faith and receptivity. and why, when one explains the 10 grounds, the Dharma of all Bodhisattva is that way, that they obtain the Buddha's protection and mindfulness. Because they obtain Buddha's protection and mindfulness, they can be courageous about these grounds of wisdom, and why these are the Bodhisattva's most initial practices for accomplishing all Buddha's dharmas. Just as written words, which say numerous things, are based upon an alphabet, in that the alphabet is fundamental to them and none of them departs from it in the slightest, so too, disciple of the Buddha, all Buddha's dharmas are based upon the 10 grounds, in that the 10 grounds are fundamental to them. Through successful cultivation of them, one obtains all wisdom. Therefore, disciple of the Buddha, I wish you would explain them. These people will certainly be protected by the thus come ones and caused to believe and receive these dharmas. At that time, Moon of Liberation Bodhisattva, wishing to restate his meaning, spoke verses saying, Good indeed, disciple of the Buddha, I wish you would proclaim all the grounds of practice to approach and enter Bodhi, of all the comfortable, honored ones, throughout the 10 directions. None is not protective of and mindful of the basic roots of wisdom, secured in them. That wisdom is also fundamental. All the Buddha's Dharma are produced from them, just as written words are comprised by alphabets, so too the Buddha's dharmas are based upon these grounds. At that time, all the assembly of great bodhisattvas, simultaneously and with a single sound, spoke verses to Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, saying, You of superior wondrous wisdom, undefiled, of boundless discriminating eloquence, please proclaim profound and wonderful words, interactive with the foremost meaning. You who mindfully maintain pure practices and are replete with virtues from 10 powers, with eloquence to discriminate the meanings, please explain the most superior grounds, with samadhi and precepts joined to form upright thoughts, free from arrogance as well as deviant views. This assembly has no doubts in mind and only wants to hear them well explained. As one thirsty thinks of icy water, as one hungry dreams about good food, as one sick reflects on wholesome medicine, as a bee is greedy for good honey, so too do we in just that way wish to hear these dharmas of sweet dew. Good indeed, one of wisdom vast and great, please tell us how to enter the 10 grounds, accomplishing 10 powers without obstruction, and the well-gone one's practices one and all. At that time, the well-honored ones, from between his eyebrows, emitted a pure light, named blazing light of Bodhisattva's powers, with hundreds of thousands of asankhya kalpas of lights and as its retinue, which universally illumine all the worlds throughout the 10 directions, pervading absolutely everywhere. The sufferings of the 3 evil paths are all ceased to be. It also illumines the assemblies of all thus come ones, manifesting all Buddha's inconceivable powers. It has also illuminated the persons of all bodhisattvas, speaking Dharma with the aid of all Buddhas throughout all worlds in the 10 directions. When finished doing that, it formed a great platform of nets of clouds of light, high in empty space, and remained there. At that time, all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, also in that way, from between their eyebrows, emitted pure lights. Those lights' names, retinues, and actions were all the same as that one's. Moreover, they illumined the Buddhas and great assemblies of this Saha world, and the person of Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva upon his lion's throne, and high in empty space. They form a large platform of nets of clouds of light. At that time, within the platform of light, through the Buddha's awesome spiritual might, were spoken verses saying, The
the Buddha with no equal, just like empty space, of 10 powers limitless, of merit and virtue supreme, among people most victorious, superior in the world, that Shakya lion's dharmas are what give them aid. Disciple of the Buddha, receive all Buddha's strength, set forth this king of dharmas, treasury most supreme, all grounds extensive wisdom, practices wondrous and supreme, through Buddha's awesome spirit, discriminate and speak. Those who have the aid of all the welcome ones should obtain these Dharma jewels and train their minds that all grounds undefiled, in order to be completed, one must possess as well, thus come one's tenfold power. Though one may dwell in blazes of kalpas like the sea, if able to accept them, one doubtless hears these dharmas, but those who harbor doubts and who have no faith will never come to hear the meanings such as these. Please do explain the grounds, the way to supreme wisdom. Enter, dwell within, unfold successive cultivation. From states of cultivation arises Dharma wisdom to benefit and aid each and every living being. At that time, Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva contemplated in the 10 directions, and in order to cause those in the great assembly to increase their pure faith, spoke verses saying, "The ways of the thus come ones, great immortals, are subtle, wonderful, and hard to comprehend. Not thought, they are apart from every thought. Those seeking them in seeing cannot attain them. They are not produced, and they are not destroyed. Pure of nature are they, and they are always still. Of people undefiled, intelligent, and wise, they are the place of practice of their wisdom. Their own nature basically is empty and it's still. Non-dual it is, but it is also unending. When liberated and set free from all the destinies, one dwells within the identity that is nirvana. They are not beginning, nor middle, nor end. They are not expressible in words. They transcend the 3 periods of time. Their characteristics are like empty space. The still extinction which the Buddhas practice cannot be described in words. The practice of the grounds is also thus difficult to express, difficult to accept. The Buddha states that arise from wisdom are not thought and leave the path of the mind. They are not the doors of skandhas, realms, or places. The wise know intellect does not reach them. As the traces of a bird in empty space are difficult to express, difficult to discern, so too are the 10 grounds meanings, incomprehensible to mind and thought. They who from compassion, kindness, and the power of vows appear and enter the practices of the grounds, gradually reach the perfection of the mind. Wisdom's practices are not reflections realm. Such states as these are difficult to perceive. They can be known but cannot be expressed. Through the Buddha's power they are proclaimed. You should receive them with all reverence. Wisdom such as this enters the practices. Millions of eons speaking does not exhaust them. I now merely speak them in a general way. The true and actual meanings are unending. With the single mind await in reverence, while I receive the Buddha's power and speak the supreme Dharma's subtle wondrous sounds with analogies and words appropriate. Every Buddha's limitless spiritual powers all come to be embodied by me. These places are difficult to express. I shall now speak a small portion.
Disciples of the Buddha, suppose there are living beings who have deeply planted good roots, well cultivated all practices, well accumulated the aids to the way, well made offerings to all Buddhas, well collected white pure dharmas, been well gathered in by good and wise advisors, have well purified deep thought, have established great resolutions, have brought forth vast great understanding, have manifested kindness and compassion, in order to speak the wisdom of the Buddhas, in order to obtain the 10 powers, in order to obtain the great fearlessnesses, in order to obtain the Buddha's dharmas of equality, in order to rescue all those in the world, in order to purify great kindness and compassion, in order to obtain the wisdom without residue of the 10 powers, in order to purify all Buddha lands without obstruction, in order to know all the 3 periods of time in a single thought, in order to turn the great Dharma will without fear. Disciples of the Buddha, when bodhisattvas bring forth those kinds of thoughts, they put compassion foremost. Their wisdom increases. They are drawn in by good and clever expedients. They maintain most superior deep thoughts. They have the limitless powers of the thus-come ones, by means of skillful contemplation and discrimination, and the power of courage, and the power of wisdom. Their unobstructed wisdom manifests. They have compliance and spontaneous wisdom. They can accept all Buddha's dharmas. They use wisdom to teach and transform. That is vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimately like empty space, which extends to the exhaustion of the boundaries of the future. Disciples of the Buddha, when bodhisattvas first bring forth those kinds of thoughts, they immediately transcend the ground of ordinary people and enter the position of a bodhisattva. They are born in the household of the thus-come ones. No one can pronounce any faults in their lineage. They abandon the worldly destinies and enter the way of the world transcendence. They obtain the dharmas of bodhisattvas. They dwell in the places of bodhisattvas. They enter into the sameness of the 3 periods of time. Within the thus-come one's family, they are certain to obtain unsurpassed bodhi. When bodhisattvas dwell in dharmas such as these, it is called dwelling on the bodhisattva's ground of happiness, because of the connection with non-moving. Disciples of the Buddha, when bodhisattvas dwell on the ground of happiness, they accomplish much happiness, much pure faith, much delight, much bliss, much elation, much enthusiasm, much courage, much wisdom from contention, much absence of troubling, much absence of anger. Disciples of the Buddha, when bodhisattvas dwell on the ground of happiness, they give rise to happiness because they are mindful of all Buddhas. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of all bodhisattvas. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of all bodhisattvas' practices. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of the purity of all paramitas. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of the supremacy of all bodhisattvas' grounds. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of all bodhisattvas' indestructibility. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of the thus-come one's teaching and transforming of living beings. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of the ability to benefit living beings. They give rise to happiness because they are mindful of entry into all thus-come one's wisdom and expedience.
They also had this thought: I give rise to happiness because I have turned away from and left behind all worldly states. I give rise to happiness because I draw near to all Buddhas. I give rise to happiness because I have left all grounds of ordinary people far behind. I give rise to happiness because I draw near the grounds of wisdom. I give rise to happiness because I have eternally cut off all evil destinies. I give rise to happiness because I am a place of reliance for all living beings. I give rise to happiness because I see all thus-come ones. I give rise to happiness because I give rise to the experiences of all Buddhas. I give rise to happiness because I enter into sameness with all bodhisattvas. I give rise to happiness because I have left all alarming, hair-raising, and other such experiences far behind. And why? Once these bodhisattvas attain the ground of happiness, they leave all fears behind. That is to say, fear of not staying alive, fear of a bad reputation, fear of death, fear of the evil destinies, fear of the awesome virtue of the great assembly. All such fears are eternally left behind. And why? It is because these bodhisattvas are free from the thought of self. They do not even cherish their own bodies, how much the less wealth and possessions. Therefore they have no fear of not staying alive. They do not seek offerings from others, but only give to other living beings. Therefore they have no fear of a bad reputation. They have left the view of self far behind, and have no thought of self. Therefore they have no fear of death. They themselves know that after death they certainly will not be apart from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Therefore they have no fear of the evil destinies. Their intent and inclinations in all worlds are unequaled. How much the less surpassed. Therefore they have no fear of the awesome virtue of the great assembly. Bodhisattvas in that way leave all alarming, hair-raising experiences far behind. Disciples of the Buddha. These bodhisattvas take great compassion as foremost. They have vast great intent and inclinations which cannot be destroyed. They intensely and diligently cultivate all good rules which become accomplished. That is, through increasing faith, through augmenting pure faith, through pure understanding, through decisive faith, through becoming sympathetic, through accomplishing great kindness, through having no weariness or laziness of mind, through adornment with shame and remorse, through accomplishing forbearance, through respectfully heeding the Buddha's instructions, through cultivating and accumulating good rules day and night without becoming tired, through drawing near good knowing advisors, through constant delight in the Dharma, through seeking learning without satiation, through properly contemplating in accord with the Dharma one has heard, through having no reliance or attachment of mind, through not hankering after profit, fame or respect, through not seeking the necessities of life, through bringing forth the jewel-like thought without satiation, through seeking the ground of all knowledge, through seeking the thus come one's powers, fearlessnesses, and the Dharma's special to a Buddha, through seeking all paramitas, Dharmas that aid the way, through freedom from all flattery and deceit, through being able to practice as is spoken, through always guarding true speech, through not defiling the Daskama's household, through not renouncing the Bodhisattva precepts, through bringing forth the thought for all knowledge, unmoving like the king of mountains, through not abandoning all worldly matters, yet accomplishing the way of world transcendence, through accumulating assisting Bodhisattva dharmas without weariness, through constantly seeking the superiorly superior, especially supreme way. Disciples of the Buddha, when the Bodhisattva accomplishes such purification and recognition of the grounds, that is called securely dwelling on the Bodhisattva's ground of happiness. Disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva who dwells upon this ground of happiness is able to accomplish such great vows, such great vigor, such great efficacy. That is, he brings forth vast, great, pure, decisive understanding, and uses all kinds of objects as offerings to worship and make offerings to all Buddhas, omitting none, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease.
He further makes great vows, vowing to receive all Buddha's Dharma will, vowing to gather in all Buddha's Bodhi, vowing to protect all Buddha's teachings, vowing to maintain all Buddha's Dharma, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. He further makes great vows, vowing that in all worlds, when a Buddha appears in the world, descending from the Tushita heaven, entering the womb, dwelling in the womb, being born, leaving home, accomplishing the way, speaking Dharma and manifesting Nirvana, he will go to all of them, draw near and make offerings, act as the head of the assembly, and received and practiced the proper Dharma, in every place at one time training, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. He further makes great vows, vowing that all the Bodhisattva practices, vast, great, limitless, unbreakable, and unmixed, including all paramitas, purifying and regulating all grounds, characterized by generality, characterized by particularity, characterized by identity, characterized by difference, characterized by production, and characterized by extinction. All the Bodhisattva practices be spoken as they truly are, to teach and transform all, causing them to accept and practice, and their thought to increase and grow, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. He further makes great vows, vowing that all the realms of living beings, those with form, without form, with thought, without thought, egg-born, worm-born, moisture-born, transformationally born, bound in the three realms, who have entered the six destinies, in all such places of rebirth, comprised of name and form, all such categories, I shall teach and transform, causing them to enter the Buddha Dharma, causing them once and for all to dwell in the way of all wisdom, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. He further makes great vows, vowing that all worlds, vast and great, limitless, gross, subtle, disarrayed, upside down, orderly, whether entering, moving, or going out, with distinctions like chakras net, in the 10 directions of limitless dissimilar varieties, his wisdom will understand them all, with direct knowledge and perception, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all the numbers of kalpas without cease. He further made great vows, vowing that all countries enter one country, and that one country enter all countries, that limitless Buddha lands universally be purified, that light and multitudes of ornaments adorn them, that they be free from all affliction, that they accomplish the way of purity, that limitless wise living beings fill them, that they universally enter all Buddha's vast great states, that they appear in accordance with the minds of living beings, causing them to all to be happy, vast and great as the Dharma room, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease.
He further makes great vows, vowing to be connected with all bodhisattvas in resolution and practice, without resentment or jealousy, to accumulate all good roots, to be of one and the same condition with all bodhisattvas, constantly to assemble together and never leave each other, to make appear at will various kinds of Buddha bodies, always to bear in his own mind the ability to know all thus come one states, their awesome powers and their wisdom, to attain to irreversibility and spiritual penetrations according to intent, freely to roam in all worlds and appear in all assemblies, universally to enter all places of birth, to accomplish the inconceivable great vehicle, to cultivate the practices of bodhisattvas, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. He further makes great vows, vowing to mount the irreversible wheel, to cultivate the bodhisattva practices, that the karmas of body, speech, and mind be not in vain, that anyone who briefly sees him will then certainly become fixed in the Buddha Dharma, that anyone who briefly hears the sound of his voice will then obtain real wisdom, that anyone who has just brought forth pure faith will then forever cut off afflictions, to obtain a body like the great medicine king tree, to obtain a body like the azure jewel, to cultivate all bodhisattvas practices, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future, throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. He further makes great vows, vowing within all worlds to achieve Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi without leaving the place of of the tip of a single hair in every place of a hair tip, to make a pure being born, leaving home, going to the way place, accomplishing proper enlightenment, turning the Dharma wheel and entering nirvana, to obtain the Buddha state and the power of great wisdom, in thought after thought, in accord with the minds of living beings, to display the accomplishment of Buddhahood, and cause them to obtain still extinction, with one somebody to know all Dharma realms are characterized by nirvana, with a single sound to speak Dharma, and cause living beings to be delighted at heart, to display entry into great nirvana, yet not cut off the bodhisattva conduct, to display the ground of great wisdom and the establishment to all dharmas, with the penetration of dharma wisdom, the penetration of spiritual fulfillments, the penetration of illusions, and comfortable changes and transformations, completely to fill the Dharma realm, vast and great as the Dharma realm, ultimate as empty space, exhausting the boundaries of the future throughout all numbers of kalpas without cease. Namo Sammando Motona Apaladiha Docha Janami Nanchimi Chimi Tantakata Namo Vashanti Boladi Uttamotam Tantakata Namo Om Panso Namo Sammando Motona Apaladiha Docha Janami Nanchimi Chimi Tantakata Namo Vashanti Boladi Uttamotam Praise for the Sixth Assembly. He ascends on high to the palace in the heaven of self-mastery over others' transformations. On a wide scale, he proclaims the infinite meanings of the 10 grounds. Successive stages are totally interpenetrating. The blaze of wisdom is multi-layered and endless, and its splendor breaks through the gray void. Namo Ocean, White Flower, Dominant Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Ocean, White Flower, Dominant Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Ocean, White Flower, Dominant Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Special dedication. We hereby dedicate the merit and virtue of this practice. May all nations be peaceful, may all people be safe, and may the weather be seasonal with an appropriate amount of rain. May the merit from this practice upon all the Buddha's lands repay the kindness from above and rescue those in paths below. May all who see or hear of this resolve upon awakening, and when this body meets his end, be born together in the land of bliss. Bow in respect to the